So my theme for today is we should rejoice in the Lord. And the question is this: what role does rejoicing in the Lord play in attaining contentment and peace in life? Again, the theme is we should rejoice in the Lord. But what role does rejoicing in the Lord play in attaining contentment and peace in life? This chapter in the Philippians contains teachings on joy, unity, and contentment, and the importance of focusing on virtuous thoughts and behaviors. It also highlights the mutual support between Paul and the Philippian believers in their shared faith and partnership in spreading the gospel. When I looked at chapter 4, I saw 3 segments, and working with my mentor, I came to realize that there's only one segment I can get through in the 15 minutes. So segment 1, standing fast in the Lord. And I broke that into 3 subsegments. The first, unity and joy, which is verses 1 through 3. God's peace, which is verses 4 through 7. And virtuous qualities, which is verses 8 and 9. The background and setting for the book of Philippians: the church was the first one founded by Paul in Europe during his second missionary trip. The church most likely met in a wealthy merchant's home. This is found in Acts 16:14. He wrote the letter to the Philippians while under house arrest in Rome, and this is around 60 to 62 AD. His imprisonment in Rome was not his first rodeo. Paul has been imprisoned multiple times during his missionary journeys. His time in Rome marks one of the most well-known imprisonment, during which he continues to write letters to the various Christian communities: Ephesians, Colossians, Philippi, and also the Philippians, which are collectively referred to as the prison epistles. This letter to the Philippians is particularly known for its themes of joy and rejoicing and thanksgiving despite Paul's circumstances. The exact reason for Paul's imprisonment in Rome is not explicitly detailed in biblical texts, but there are several theories, and there is historical context that can provide some insight to this. First, throughout his missionary journeys, Paul faces opposition from both the Jewish and the religious authorities. And why? It's because he's often arrested and persecuted for preaching the gospel, which is seen as challenges both to the religious leaders and the political authorities. One of the events that led to Paul's imprisonment in Rome was his arrest in Jerusalem. He had returned to Jerusalem, and while at the temple, a mob accused him of bringing a Gentile into the inner court, which was a big no-no. It's against Jewish law. And this led to his arrest and authorities preventing a larger riot, because Paul got beat pretty good there. And that's found in Acts 21, verses 27 to 36. The book of Acts describes a series of legal proceedings that eventually led to Paul's appeal to Caesar. He was brought before the Roman governors Felix and Festus, and eventually King Agrippa. During these trials, Paul defends himself and proclaims the gospel. Paul defends himself. He exercises his right as a Roman citizen to appeal his case to Caesar, which is in Acts 25, 10 through 12, which results in his journey to Rome. When Paul arrives in Rome, he's placed under house arrest, which is recorded in Acts 28:16, and he continues to preach the gospel while writing his letters. The church in Philippi hears of Paul's imprisonment once again, and they send support to him through a man named Epaphroditus. And this man suffers a near fatal illness on his way either to Paul or once he arrives there. And Paul decides he's going to send him back with a letter to the church in Philippi expressing thanks for their support and also making sure that they didn't think that Epaphroditus' service was unacceptable. He also probably learns from Epaphroditus about the challenges that are going on in his church at the time, and he wants to encourage unity within the church, and he wants to send to the church, most likely, this letter that's going to be read out loud in front of the congregation. So let's get into it. The first segment, standing fast in the Lord, and my sub-segment is unity and joy. So verse 1, therefore my beloved, Paul is addressing a group of people he cares deeply about. He is affectionately referring to them as my beloved. He has ate and drank and slept and gone door to door with these people. Blood, sweat, and tears, cried with, laughed with. He's created a relationship with these people, this church. So he feels very close to them, my beloved. And the verse continues, and longed for brethren, my joy and my crown. He sees them as precious and valuable. The term crown refers to Olympics. So in our day, we get the gold, silver, or bronze medal. Well, they had Olympics back in his day as well. And back in that day, you received a crown of leaves. So he's saying that he sees that church, he sees that group as a symbol of victory, joy and crown. So stand fast in the Lord, beloved. Paul's reminding them to hold tightly to their beliefs and to remain committed to their relationship with God. He's saying they need to stay strong and persevere no matter what the challenges or obstacles. Verse 2, I implore Euodia and I implore Syntyche to be of the same mind in the Lord. The word implore means he's begging or he's urging them to do something. He's emphasizing unity among believers, and he's encouraging them to resolve their differences for the sake of their shared faith in Christ, to become more Christ-like. So why do people clash? And of course, I'm not talking about anybody in here. I'm talking about the sinners that are outside these cement walls, right? Why do people clash? Well, many reasons. Could be simply due to a misunderstanding these two women. Maybe one of them said something, the other one heard something different. And now they're upset, but they're not talking to one another. Could be personality differences. Maybe these two women are type A. Type A people are generally aggressive, trying to get a lot of things done, all right? But God gives us all different blessings and ideas and skills, and together as Christians, we work to get things done, right? A Christian here in the Philippines, God gives us the rules of how to live our lives, is the same as someone in Japan, is the same as someone in Mexico or America, right? So maybe it's that. Maybe we just have really two strong personalities that are not finding it easy to work together. Maybe it's a perceived power imbalance. We get lists in the work world sometimes, at least I did at IBM. Maybe they feel that they need the better office, or maybe one of these women feels that she needs to have the parking space closest to the church, or the perfect chair that's right there by the stage, right? I mean, I don't know for sure what's going on with these women, but could be a power imbalance. How about pride? Maybe one of them feels that the church grew because of her effort. Maybe she feels that she worked harder than this other lady, so she's puffed up. Maybe she knows the word, maybe in her mind, better than somebody else. So she's not working together. Maybe these two women are struggling in that regard. How about this? Saving face. Show of hands, anybody heard saving face ever used? My first experience with that term was about 25 years ago. And I was working at IBM, and I was a service manager, and I had responsibility for America from California to New York, all of the service that was required in the Walmart stores. We had field managers and engineers, and Walmart was a national company. But Walmart decided they wanted to grow. So they moved me and my family down to their headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas, and they decided that they're going to move, grow their business, and they went to Mexico as their first country that they conquered. There was a company in Mexico called Cifras. It was a big, large shopping center, and they took that over, changed the name on the wall, and they trained all the associates in the store to work just like all the associates in America. So you couldn't tell the difference between the two countries. And IBM, International Business Machines, had service both in America and in Mexico. So again, you want to have consistency no matter where you're at, just like in us Christians, right? We want to be the same no matter what country we're in. And the situation came up where we had a store that went down. They can't ring any sales in Mexico. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Walmart expects us to have a call to them in 10 minutes and to be out there within a half hour, or maybe it's 20 minutes, I don't know. But within a half hour, they had heard nothing. It escalates. Now I get this call, and they're like, we need somebody out the store. They can't ring any sales. So I get on the phone with the manager, and I'm like, you know, we got the store down. What's the situation? And they say, well, we're going to have somebody out there, but it's going to be 2 hours because we don't do things the same as you do in America. We have siesta here, and our engineer, he's in nap time right now. So 2 hours from now, you can expect to get him out there. Well, that's unacceptable. You know, the one thing about life is things are always changing, right? So things had changed in Mexico, and they didn't realize it, or they wouldn't accept it. I guess they did realize it because he told them ahead of time, but they didn't accept it. So I'm telling the field manager, you've got to get your guys out there, and that's what I hear. You don't understand our culture. You're not going to let me save face. You know, this isn't going to happen. And eventually we worked through the issue. He wound up getting replaced, and some of the engineers that we had in Mexico raised their level of service. Some couldn't. You know, they found jobs in other places. But eventually you couldn't distinguish the difference between an IBM service engineer in Mexico from the United States. Everything improved, right? So maybe that's what's going on with these ladies. You know, maybe one of them's being accused of, you know, saving face because she's like, well, Paul's not going to be here for a while. You know, I understand if he gets here, then I got to work real hard for a couple weeks. But right now I don't have to deal with that, right? So that was saving face. So I thought, okay, how is it defined? You know, among all the nations in the world, how is saving face defined, adding in Christianity? What would the definition of that be? So let me read it to you. To save face means to maintain or protect one's reputation and image in a social situation, even if it requires compromising one's integrity or values. It often involves hiding mistakes or failures and presenting a perfect image to others. Saving face is opposite to Christian beliefs because it prioritizes self-preservation and dishonesty over honesty and humility. Christians are called to live with integrity and to acknowledge their weaknesses and sin, to seek forgiveness and reconciliation when needed. Saving face can result in deception, manipulation, or even harming others to maintain a certain image or reputation. In contrast, Christian beliefs of honesty and humility prioritize truth-telling, loving others, and treating everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of social status, power, or nationality. So I found a quote that I felt spoke to this fairly well. It's from Leonard Ravenhill, and it goes like this. One of the tragedies of modern Christianity is we've lost sight of the holiness of God. And because we've lost sight of the holiness of God, we've lost sight of the sinfulness of man. So, what do unresolved clashes lead to? Well, if you remember Pastor Larry's presentation on conflict resolution, this is going to sound a lot like that. First, Unresolved conflicts can cause stress, anxiety, or emotional pain, which can affect mental and physical health and the quality of life. Second, clashes can create tension and resentment between people, leading to broken relationships and even violence. Third, conflict can lead to missed opportunities for growth or learning or advancement in personal and professional ways. And fourth, unresolved disputes can hinder collective, effective teamwork, decision making, and it can lead to a decrease in productivity and effectiveness. Verse 3. And I urge you also, true companions, help these women who labored with me in the gospel, with Clement also, and the rest of my fellow workers, whose names are in the book of life. Paul is reminding everyone that they are all part of the same spiritual family, that it's important to work together to help each other as fellow members in that family. He's saying that despite any differences or issues that may arise, that we should remember to focus on our shared goals of eternal life in God's kingdom. My second segment, God's peace, verses 4 through 7. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again I say, rejoice. Paul is encouraging his readers to feel joy and happiness in their faith. He's asking them to appreciate the good things in their life and to focus on positive aspects of their faith, even if things aren't perfect. The repetition of the word rejoice indicates that Paul wants them to internalize this message so they live in joy and they radiate joy to others. Verse 5. Let your gentleness be known to all men. Paul is urging his readers to be gentle in their interactions with others. He wants them to show kindness and respect, which doesn't mean not addressing issues, because that's not loving. It means the way in which we discuss the issues should be seasoned with grace and with mercy. The Lord is at hand. Means God is near. Paul wants them to remember that God is always with them, so there's no reason to worry or to be afraid. Be anxious for nothing. Paul is saying that they should try to avoid worrying about things they can't control. But by everything, by prayer and supplication, means the ultimate solution to anxiety and to worry is to trust and pray unceasingly and in earnest. With thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Paul is encouraging his readers to appreciate the good things in their lives and to focus on the things that they already have rather than the things that they lack. And the peace of God is a sense of tranquility that comes from knowing and trusting in God, which surpasses all understanding. It's a peace that cannot be fully understood or explained by human language or logic. Before coming here, I had a 20-year career in a business where I fed people in the projects in Chicago, the murder capital of the world, right? And I've had occasion to be face-to-face, like this close to death, right? And saw things that would make you want to scream and run. But I tell you, in the two closest times I came to that situation, God had a peace. He gave me a peace. I mean, He's sovereign. You're going to die when you're going to die, and He's going to protect you if you're not. And all the sounds of the world fell away, and I could hear a pin drop. That's how calm things were. That's what life is like. That's when God is involved, and that's what He's saying here. It's not explained by human language or logic. A peace that surpasses all understanding. For my third subsegment, virtuous qualities, verses 8 to 9. There's power in our thoughts. Practice what we've learned. Verse 8, finally, brethren, whatever things are true, means things that are genuine, real, or trustworthy. whatever things are noble, that we should focus our thoughts on things that are good and virtuous and honorable. It encourages us to aspire to do things that will benefit others and society as a whole. It implies that we should aim to live a life of dignity and respect. Whatever things are just means things that are fair and right. It encourages us to act with integrity and fairness and honesty in all aspects of our life. Whatever things are pure, meaning to cultivate a clean and innocent heart and to avoid behaviors that lead us down a path of immorality or impurity. Whatever things are lovely, we should focus on the positive aspects of life, instead of dwelling on the negativity or the things that may bring us down. Whatever things are of good report, we can become role models for others and inspire them to live a life of honor and integrity. If there's any virtue, the word virtue refers to qualities that are viewed as morally or socially desirable, such as honesty or integrity and compassion. If there's anything praiseworthy, by focusing on things that are worthy of praise, we can cultivate a positive outlook on life and find joy in praising the good work and honest endeavors of others. And notice I didn't say to seek praise for yourself, but for others in what they are doing or what they have done. Meditate on these things. We learned this in, I forget the class. To meditate on these things encourages us to make it a habit of reflecting on the positive qualities and to use this reflection as a guide in our daily lives. And in doing so, we can develop a virtuous character and find inner peace. Bible study methods. That was the class we learned this in. And finally, verse 9. The things which you learned and received and heard and saw in me, these do. And the peace and God's peace will be with you. When we follow God's teachings and emulate Jesus' example, we will experience a sense of peace and security that comes from knowing that we are walking in the path of righteousness. So in summary, what did we learn? Well, while Paul's in prison, the Lord is with him. His circumstances are not defining him. Instead, he's encouraging the church. He's saying that by focusing our thoughts on positive things, while at the same time addressing issues in love and trusting in God's promises, we will find strength in Him, and by rejoicing in the Lord, we can overcome anxiety and worry and experience His peace, which surpasses all understanding.